All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on PlayPosit playlists. Thank you for joining us here, either live or watching the recording session later on. And so we're going to go ahead and get started in just a moment here. Um, but first, as we're kind of welcoming folks into the session, if you could in the chat just share with us what your experience level is with PlayPosit currently. And so just put a 1 if you've never used the tool before, 2 if you used it, and 3 if you are a regular user of PlayPosit. And so go ahead and pop a 1, 2, or 3 into the chat, please, so we can get a sense of where people are at. Excellent. Thank you so much. It looks like we have kind of a wide range of experience levels with PlayPosit. So that is good to know. For today's session, it is intended for folks who have used the PlayPosit tool before to build out bulbs and other content. But if you're newer to the tool, I think definitely still stick around, learn about what playlists are and how to use them, and then you can kind of build on that knowledge as well and dive a bit deeper into the world of creating bulbs, which is our term for interactive video. So excellent. That's good information for us to have. Let's get right into it to make the most of our time together. So to start, just want to introduce myself. My name is Dylan Blatt. I'm a customer success manager at PlayPosit, which is powered by WeVideo. So I work with many K through 12 districts and higher ed institutions to help instructors and other folks get the most out of using the PlayPosit tool for teaching and for learning. Before we get officially into the agenda for today's session, I do have a few norms to share and kind of ask of you all for today. So one is to be courageous. If you have something to share during the session, go ahead and put that in the chat, and please feel free to share your insights, your experience, especially for those folks who are a 2 or a 3 on the experience level scale, and you might have something to share with others. Ask questions. My colleague Jason is also available in the chat to support any questions, and he's a PlayPosit expert, so he can support any questions that you have throughout the session. Don't need to wait till the end. You can ask at any point. The third one is probably the most important to me, which is think with the learner in mind. We're all trying to do our best in service of students and learners, so keep that at the forefront of any questions and thoughts that you have. And then the last 2 are stay engaged. If you're joining us live, go ahead and listen in as best as you can and share those questions and thoughts. And the last one's innovate. If you have any cool ideas, tips, tricks, or use cases that you think might be helpful to share out, go ahead and definitely do that, please. So in the spirit of engagement, if you have any norms to either add or adjust here, feel free to share those out in the chat now, and we'd be happy to add those to the list. Okay, so keep that chat going. Thanks for the engagement so far. And again, welcome Jason and others. Here is the agenda for today's session. So we're going to start with just a brief overview of PlayPosit, but as I mentioned, this session is intended for folks who are somewhat familiar with the tool already. But again, stick around if you're not. Playlists are one of the add-on applications for PlayPosit. So you may not currently have access to that at your school or institution's license. I'll show you how to figure that out in just a moment. And if you don't, you can reach out to success@wevideo.com and we can get you more information about the tool. But if you are fortunate enough to have playlists as an application at your institution, then you're in for a real treat today to learn about this awesome tool. So we're going to talk about PlayPosit, kind of an overview. You'll get a chance to experience what a playlist looks like from the learner perspective. I'll share a few use cases. There are many more, but I'll share about 3 in particular, give you some of the highlights of the features that you have access to inside the playlist tool. And then we'll spend some time building out and assigning that playlist. I will also give you the chance to just have some time on your own to build out a playlist, or at least start. And then we've got some questions and resources to share at the end. One question in the chat is just around playlists being different than PlayPosit. The answer is yes. PlayPosit is an interactive video tool, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. And playlist is one of the add-on applications that allows you to pull in several different videos and other resources into kind of one link. So let's get right into the overview, and maybe this will answer some of the questions as well. For those who are newer to PlayPosit, what is it? Well, it's really at its core an instructional design studio. So you can access it through your learning management system like Canvas or Schoology. You can also access it outside of a learning management system. And then essentially you choose a video from either YouTube or Vimeo or one of the other private hosts that maybe you have access to at your institution, like Kaltura or Panopto. And then once you've picked that video that you want to assign to learners, you can use the PlayPosit Instructional Design Studio to add interactions and interactivity on top of that video in the timeline. So really powerful way to boost engagement and hold learners accountable for the content. So we're going to get a little bit more into that in a moment, but that is the general what is PlayPosit. The end product that you create inside of PlayPosit, we call it a bulb. But a bulb is really just our term for an interactive video created in PlayPosit. We call it that because it kind of feels like a light bulb going off in a learner's mind, illuminating the learning process. The cool thing about a bulb is it is really flexible, so you can assign it asynchronously, kind of that self-paced mode. It can be assigned in a synchronous form as a broadcast where the teacher or the instructor is the one controlling the flow of the video and the engagement, and learners are responding at the instructor's pace. But for today, we're actually going to focus on the playlist deployment, which is a series of potentially different bulbs and resources kind of in one easy to access link for learners to engage with. So a really powerful way to bring in together multiple resources into one place. So that's our focus for today's session. But we do have several other webinars and sessions available at the bulb level and kind of more of an intro to PlayPosit that you can access as well. All right, it's time for our first engagement that I'm going to ask from you all. So in a moment, I'm going to share a link in the chat, and this is your chance to engage with a playlist as if you were a learner and just get a sense of what it might feel like for students. And so I'm going to put the link in the chat. It usually works best if you can open up an incognito window, and you're going to copy and paste that link from the chat in just a second. And then you can, if you'd like to enter your first and last name to kind of begin, you can also make up a fictional character name as well, if that's preferable. And you don't need to necessarily complete this playlist, but I'm just going to ask that you, try your best to go through it and really get a feel for what that might be like as a learner. But I'm just going to take about 5 minutes to give us space for this activity. And then you can let me know you're done in the chat, or when the 5 minutes goes off, we'll just pause there to hear some thoughts, some feedback, and continue on with the session. So the link is in the chat right now, and I'm going to start this 5-minute timer. If you have any questions as you're engaging with that playlist link, go ahead and put them in the chat, but I would recommend trying the incognito window. Usually works best for this kind of public link. All right, I'm going to go on mute, but I'll be right here if you need anything as you're in that learner experience. All right, that was about 5 minutes. So thank you for taking some time to engage with that playlist. Looks like a couple of folks are done, and some people were able to at least just get a feel for what that might be like. And I know exactly kind of where each person is at. Amazing, thank you, Clyde. Now I know exactly where people are at because I have access to the monitor page, which I'll just show you now briefly for a moment. And so as you all are working, I can refresh my monitor page here and get exact data on the score that you might have, the time spent on the particular playlist, and I can actually even dive into each individual resource and see how folks are doing on that particular bulb or interactive video, or how they've engaged with other resources as well, like a PDF. So the monitor page has a ton of data available for you as well, which is great. But just wanted to quickly show that there. Hopefully now you're kind of getting a sense of what the playlist experience can be like. This is just one example, but I do want to take a bit of time to show you a couple other examples of what it can be used for as a teacher or in other roles as well. So let's dive into a few use cases at this point. And again, feel free to share your thoughts, your questions, your ideas in the chat as we are going along, whether you're brand new to PlayPosit or you've used it a ton before. All right, so one use case that you might consider is unit delivery. So this is kind of an academic use case where you want to personalize that learning pathway for students, and you may want to share with them kind of an entire unit of content inside of this playlist. So this one's on the physics gas laws, and this can make the engagement really exciting because you're pulling together video content for learners as well as other resources that they engage with, and can be sort of scaffolded in the order that you would like learners to engage with. A couple things to note here that you have the ability to do with the playlist tool. You can do something called locking the progression. And so I'll show you how to adjust that when we do our demo. But that essentially means that learners have to start at the top of the playlist and go in order. So they sort of unlock each part of the playlist as they move through it. And you can scaffold the learning in that way. So you can lock the progression. You can also go inside of a particular bulb and set a minimum completion score. And so that learners can't move on until they reach a certain percentage score on that content. So there's a few ways to hold learners accountable in that way and also have them engage with the content in the way that you have designed it here. But as you can see in this particular example, the learners have access to their embedded notes functionality. So in any bulb, they can take notes, time-stamped, and then they can search those notes or download them later on for future reference. But similar to the one you just experienced, the interactions pop up in that video timeline inside of each bulb. And here you can see on the left, they also have a PDF on Boyle's Law that they can access, annotate, and download as well, and a few other resources here along the way. There's actually a virtual lab at the end, which is super cool, that learners can also engage with to kind of culminate this particular topic. So those are a few of the features of this sort of unit delivery approach, but it's really like a nice, neat way to pull together all of the pieces of a topic of study into one place, either for teaching it the first time or for kind of a future review prior to some sort of assessment. So that's one use case. Again, if you have questions or thoughts on that, or if you've tried this type of example before, chat is fully open for you to share. The second one is more of a use case around course foundations. And so maybe at the beginning of a course, this could be at the K through 12 level or the college or higher ed level, beginning of a course or a class, and you want to share several of sort of those like opening resources for learners, like an introduction to yourself as the teacher, or a space where learners can introduce themselves in a discussion. You can share the syllabus, the course overview, any expectations for the course as well, forms or other policies that they need, and places for feedback. And these can be in video form, like a bulb, or can be those PDFs or other types of resources as well, like a website or text. So let's take a look at what that looks like here. This one here starts out with a bit of a bio on the instructor, and then an introduction as well. And this is in the video format. So you can see here a discussion forum where learners can engage with each other to introduce themselves. If you look on the left side here, you'll notice there's a syllabus that's interactive for learners to engage with, an overview of the course, and some of the other expectations and policies, as well as a place for feedback for learners to share. So one really like nice, neat, again, I know I said that before, but nice, neat link and way to share out several important resources and content, pieces of content in one place. And it really builds on the power of those bulbs that as a PlayPosit user, you may have already created inside of the tool, and you're just going to be pulling those in to the playlist. So that's another example. And then one more slightly less academic focused, but equally important is sort of this onboarding idea. And so at the school level, it could be that you're orienting students to something, whether it's the campus, a tour of the learning management system, schedules or policies, and you want to share all those resources. Maybe this is for parents or families of students or new students as well. You want to share those in one place. It could look something like this example here on the right, where there's a virtual tour of the school as well as a map of the campus, an introduction on how to register for certain activities, and then things like the schedule and planning guide as well. So the general, if we zoom out here, the general kind of big picture theme of the playlist is you're taking resources that you want to share with learners or engage them in, or in this case, families or parents, and you're putting them all in one spot, and you're able to share that out and assign it either through your LMS, or it could be a link as well that you assign publicly to learners. So those are three kind of use case examples of many that exist, but just wanted to get the ideas going, give you some examples that maybe you can build off of or that might resonate with you all. So again, feel free to share in the chat if you had thoughts or questions on those or other ideas that came from that. But at this point, I do want to get into some of the features that you have access to in the playlist tool. And then, of course, I'll show you how to actually build a playlist and assign it and give you kind of that demo as well. So here's some features that you have access to that I think are important to know. First one is content design. So you have control over the content that you put in this playlist, whether that is the bulbs that maybe you've already created or you're going to create inside PlayPosit. Remember, a bulb is just interactive video created in PlayPosit. Or it could be an attachment like a PDF, a doc, CSV, an image. It can be a website that you want to embed into this playlist, or it can be a text item. And the text item is actually really versatile because you can also add links in there as well. And so that's perfect for instructions or additional resources that you want to add to your playlist. And then you can really organize it how you'd like into sections, which we call modules. You can change the color, the title. And so you have a lot of flexibility in how you design that playlist. The second piece that's really important around features here is the accountability. So you can set for each individual bulb the features that you would like in terms of playback, or assign a minimum completion score to make sure learners hit a certain threshold before they move forward. I mentioned this earlier, but it's really important to say it again. You can lock the progression, so learners have to go from the top in order for each piece of the playlist, or you can unlock the progression, and then it's more of a choice board where they can jump around and choose their own adventure. And then for PDF settings, just to mention, if you have a PDF in there, in order for it to be marked complete, learners have to sort of scroll to the bottom to ensure that they have read through that PDF, or at least seen the full PDF. Great. And if you're just joining us, we are talking about some of the features of playlists inside of PlayPosit, and I'll be demoing how to do that and build it out on your own in just a moment. All right, and the last piece, which is really cool, is the certificates functionality. So you can enable, if you would like to, the certificate to be generated when learners reach the end of the playlist and have completed all the components. You can even customize it a bit with your own organizational branding. You can set a particular comment that is added on the certificate. You can add a signature as well, and even a badge. So there are some ways to customize certificates if it's something that you want to enable for your learners. So those are a few of the features. If there's any questions or thoughts on those, again, feel free to put those in the chat as we are continuing to learn together. But at this point, we're going to dive into the demo in just a moment. Quick question in the chat around, is the playlist included in PlayPosit? The answer is it is an add-on application, which your organization, institution might already have access to. I'll show you right now how to check that. And if it's not available, I would recommend emailing success@wevideo.com to see if we can help get that added to the license. But the way to know is if you are inside of PlayPosit and you are on the left side menu here, you should see under classes the playlists option. If you do not see that, that means that your organization doesn't currently have that feature built in, but we can work together to try to add that to the license because it is a really powerful and flexible tool. So again, just go to PlayPosit, look at the menu on the left side. If you see that playlist option there, then you'll know you have access to it. Okay, so let's get into the demo portion here where we kind of build out our simple version of a playlist, and you can get a sense of how to do that. And you can come away hopefully from today with tangible skills on doing this. So here's the workflow, and I'll dive into PlayPosit right after this, but here's the workflow that we're going to go through. You access PlayPosit, which you can do from either your learning management system or directly from the PlayPosit site. You can add bulbs to the playlist, or you can create a new playlist, and then we can link that playlist either to your assignment in the learning management system or outside of the learning management system. And I'll show you how to do that as well. By the way, I have an interactive handout for you all, which we will share in the chat. And so that will look something like this. And I appreciate Jason for sharing that. This has, for those who are newer to the tool, some resources about getting started, but also a few resources on playlists specifically. And at the very bottom of this guide, which is in the chat now, are a couple articles on some of the common learning management system workflows that we often see: Blackboard, Canvas, D2L, Moodle. But if you have any questions on accessing PlayPosit, either through the LMS or outside of one, let us know. But it does seem like a lot of folks on this webinar, or who are probably going to rewatch it, will have already used the tool. And so we're going to dive right into creating playlists. So I'm going to do what I said before. I'm inside of PlayPosit, and I'm going to go to that menu on the left side and click that playlist option underneath where it says classes. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and add a new playlist, kind of similar to how you would do so with adding a new bulb, but that teal button in the top left. And that will open up a brand new tab, which is my playlist designer. And the first thing I like to do is just change my title. So I will call this one Playlist Webinar Demo. And then if you're feeling snazzy, you can adjust the color as well just by dragging this spectrum of colors here. Or you can adjust using the hex if you have that particular available. All right. So I've got my color, I've got my title set up. Great. And now I'm going to kind of build out the skeleton of my playlist using the modules. So on the top left, it says Add Module. And you just need to click that to add a module. And I'm going to click it 4 times because I have 4 that I'm going to add in my particular example. No problem, Jennifer. You can definitely watch the recording later on. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, if you want to change the titles of the modules, all you have to do is click into them, and you can just use your keyboard to backspace and change the name there. So I will call this Module 1, How to Build a Playlist. And so if you're working alongside me now, this is a good time to kind of copy me, and you can build out your own example, or you can copy exactly mine as well. And the second one is going to be Module 2, Assigning a Playlist. Assigning playlist. I'm not sure if I spelled that right. Double check that. All right, Module 3, Monitoring Playlist. And the last one is going to be Module 4, Playlist Resources. All right, so I have now changed my title, changed the color of my playlist. which is just kind of for fun. And then I've built out the modules, at least the titles so far. All you have to do is click and you can type into those as well. You can also drag and drop and change the order. So if I change my mind, I can just click and hold on my mouse and then just drag and drop the order of those sections. So it's really flexible there as well. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is bring in some of my bulbs or my interactive videos that I've got inside my PlayPosit account. So to do that, I will click the Add Bulbs button right here underneath one of my modules. That will bring up the My Bulbs library here from my PlayPosit account. And then all I have to do is click on the little rectangular button with an arrow inside of it to select and kind of queue up that bulb to be added to my playlist. So I'm going to click this one, and I can actually queue up more than one at a time, which is a nice way to streamline that. So I'll click these three. It says 3 bulbs queued, and then whenever I'm ready to bring those in, I just click the Add Bulbs button in the top right, and those are now inside of my playlist. Now notice they are in this first module, but similar to the modules, I can click the bulbs and just drag and drop them wherever I would like them to go. So I'm just going to organize that into those 3 sections. And just like that, I've got my bulbs brought into this playlist, which I can also edit from here as well. So if I want to change the bulb settings, I can click that gear icon, change the title, the tags, or the playback options, as well as the privacy. Or I can actually click and edit that bulb and make some changes there as well. Now, if you're building out the playlist and you're saying to yourself, well, I do have another idea for another bulb, another video that I want to bring in to my playlist, you do not need to go back out to PlayPosit. You can actually create it right here. So if you click this Create New Bulb button in the top, that'll open up a new tab, and you can create a brand new bulb from here and then bring that right into your playlist. So that is one kind of easy step there to bring new bulbs into your playlist. And so at this point, I've got my modules, I've got some bulbs brought in, and they've got the titles and the settings that I would like. But I do want to bring in some other resources that are not interactive videos. And so maybe in my module 4, I'll bring in a couple other resources here. So one could be a Google Doc. And so I just clicked Add Bulbs, but in this time, I'm going to click Add Other. So when you click Add Other, you'll see a few options here like attachments, web embed, or texts. So I've got a Google Doc link that I'm going to add here under my web embed space. Apologies, I might have not pasted my link correctly. I'm going to do that one more time. There it is. And then it shows a preview, and I'll just click Add Link. Now you'll notice that the URL is currently the title of this resource, which is a little bit long. So I will just change that to, we'll call it Resource Guide. And so there's my Google Doc right there. And maybe I want to add a particular website, which has a knowledge base article on creating a playlist. So I'll click Add Other again. And this time I'm going to put the website right there in that web embed link. Shows me a preview, and I'll click Add Link there. And this one I'll call Knowledge Base Article. And I can even type directions for learners. So maybe I want to add other, and this time I want to type a text and say directions, or this can be video tutorial. And maybe I have a YouTube link that I want to just paste in there as well and say, here is a video tutorial for a playlist. And then I can highlight the text, and I can do insert. And I have the option of inserting images, links, or tables. So I'll put in my link there. And one thing I like to do here is open the link in a new window, so I can kind of keep that playlist in one tab, and then if a link opens up in another tab as well. So I can type text, add links. This is a really flexible way to add directions and other resources for learners inside a playlist. I often like to add directions at the beginning of a playlist with this text functionality right here. You can also change the formatting with bold, italics, and other tools here under the Format tab. There are a lot of ways to a lot of ways to adjust that formatting there. There's also some text colors and background colors that are pretty cool too. So you can have some fun playing around there. I'll just keep it simple for now. Add that text in. Maybe I'll even drag that up to the top of this section. So those are a few of the ways I can build out different resources inside my playlist. You can get creative and do exactly what you would like for your learners, but here's just a small sample of what it could look like. So that is sort of the basics there around creating the playlist, but there are a few settings and other kind of advanced pieces that I do still want to show you all here today. So I've got my playlist built out. Let's say this is exactly how I want it and it's got everything I need. Now I can go and adjust some of the settings. And so under settings, there is this one option here, which is what I mentioned earlier. If I click that toggle on, then people will lock the progression. And so learners will now have to go from the top down in order, and they won't be able to unlock each piece until they've completed the previous one all the way through. So for a video, that looks like going through and answering all the questions, engaging with all the interactions. For a PDF, that looks like scrolling to the bottom of the PDF. And for a direction, it just means staying on that direction for a few moments until it has been read. All right, visibility, you can change the privacy here of whether you want learners to see it and other teachers at your school or district or institution, or you can make it public so other people can find it and leverage that playlist as well. You can tag it with particular content. Maybe I call this one demo or playlist tutorial. And if it's not there, you can just type it and click enter on your keyboard and that will lock in that new tag. You can adjust the target audience or subject as well. And then that one piece I mentioned earlier is right here, the certificate settings. So if you say, hey, I want learners to have the ability to earn a certificate for going through this playlist, you click that toggle on, and then you can do a couple things to get fancy with it. You can upload a certificate. So I'm actually going to do that right now. So certificate badge, excuse me, I said certificate. So under certificate badge here, I'm going to upload one right now that I've got saved on my desktop. And then I'm also going to upload a signature, which you can do as well. And you could even type a message if you want to say like congratulations or congrats. You have now completed this unit of study. And that will show up on the playlist certificate as well. So you can preview that by clicking this preview button. That'll open up a new tab with your sample version. It will have the student's or the learner's name here. But I uploaded this badge here in the top right and that signature in the bottom left. And then the comment that I typed is right here underneath that, that part where it says a 4-module playlist assigned by WeVideo. And if you have your organization's branding built in, it'll be in the top left here already. And that'll happen kind of from the admin side. So certificate's kind of a nice add-on feature there that is part of playlist, but you can choose whether you want to use it or not. And if you have an integration with Badger, you can even use that functionality too. So I'll keep my playlist certificate on since I think it's fun. And at this point, I am pretty much ready to assign out this playlist to my learners. So to do that, if I click save and exit, I can assign it from my learning management system the same way I would assign a bulb by just opening PlayPosit inside of an assignment or material and linking that playlist instead of linking a bulb. Or I can assign it directly from here as well by clicking this assign button. And if I do that, it'll open up a brand new tab with the assign view here. And then I've just got to click a particular class that I want to assign it to. If you do not have a class ready for assigning, you can close out, go to the classes tab right here. And then you can add a new class, title it whatever you'd like, change the color if you want, and save it. But I already created one called Playlist Webinar Demo, so I'm going to use that to assign. So let me go back to my playlist section here. And I've got my playlist webinar demo right here. All I do is click that icon on the left, those 3 lines with the play button, and choose the assign option. I can also go back to edit, preview it, or monitor the data, which I think I showed that view earlier. You can collaborate with others and share that as well, but I'm going to assign it for now. From here, I will click the class that I want to assign it to and just choose a due date. Maybe I want it to be due by the end of the month. And then I can get that assign link by clicking this link button right here. And you can copy that link and share it with learners, and that is totally fine. But I do want to show a couple advanced settings here as well. So you can assign it to learners. This can be for instructors. So if they have an instructor account, maybe it's for professional learning. You can make a public login where that's what I shared with you all earlier. You do not need to log into PlayPosit to access it. You all had to type in a first and last name of some kind, but I can also toggle this button right here, which will not require a name. And so you'll just access it anonymously. That is an option as well. Or you can even choose instructor or learner. So anybody with a PlayPosit account, whether they're teacher, student, can log in and access that playlist. So you have those options. You also can share the link as well as the QR code, or you can show this embed code and embed it within a website as well. So it's really flexible with how you assign out and share that playlist. And I think like one way to mention you might want to do public is if it's for families or parents that maybe don't have that that PlayPosit login, but you want them to access those welcoming resources at the beginning of a school year. A public link would be a good option in that case. You can require the learner name there maybe, or you can keep it anonymous as well. So that's how you can assign it outside of the LMS workflow. But at that point, or at this point rather, that is sort of the full demo here around playlists. I see we have some questions coming through in the chat, which I believe Jason has been answering. So thank you, Jason, for answering those questions. Please keep those coming. For now, I am going to go back to our slides. And this is actually your chance to build out a playlist, or at least start building one, getting comfortable with trying to do that if you're someone who has access to the playlist application. So I'm going to set just a 5-minute timer on my phone here as you all are working. But this is also a good chance for you to continue to ask those questions and share thoughts in the comments here that we can continue to respond to. And then after that, we will close out with some questions and resources. So 5 minutes, I'm going on mute. This is your chance to continue to work in the tool and explore and get some live support if you need. All right, 5 minutes, go ahead. got about one more minute here on the 5 minutes of work time, but a couple of questions are coming through the chat, so I can try to help with some of those as well, as Jason is responding to. So Bernice, for your question, Playlist is part of the PlayPosit tool. So if you're inside of Canvas and you go to those external tools, you should be able to find PlayPosit kind of as usual. And then when you're inside of that PlayPosit account within Canvas, you can, instead of going to My Bulbs, you can go to the playlist section, and then you should see a Canvas logo next to that playlist to assign it, or link it rather, to that assignment. So instead of going to My Bulbs, when you're in PlayPosit within Canvas, go to Playlists and then click on that Canvas logo next to the playlist you'd like to assign. Hopefully that helps, but let us know if you need more support. And you can also contact us, as Jason mentioned, at support@playposit.org for some technical support there as well. All right, so that was just about 5 minutes. Hopefully that was enough time to just start building out a playlist and get some comfort with that tool. Or if you ran into some issues, this is a good time to put them in the chat or reach out to our support@playposit.org email. I also mentioned this in the chat, but if you're someone who doesn't have playlists available at your institution yet, but you are interested, just reach out to success@wevideo.com, and we will help get that added to your license, because it is a really powerful tool as an add-on for people who are already using PlayPosit to build out bulbs. It is an awesome way to pull in that content with other resources and assign it out to learners. So keep that in mind. We now are going to move on to the questions and resources portion of the webinar for today. So I want to share 5 commonly asked questions, which I think some of them may have already been asked and answered in the chat, but just to kind of name these up front, and then we can take any others as well. We often get asked, is there a bulb or resource limit to playlists? And the answer to that question is no. You can include as many bulbs and resources as you need. So the sky's the limit when it comes to that. Number 2 is, how are playlists graded? Someone asked this earlier in the chat, so I appreciate that question. But just to name it here again, it's just an average score of all the bulbs inside of the playlist. And so it's really just the total points earned from all the bulbs in the playlist divided by the total points possible, and getting that percentage, which will then get passed back to your learning management system if you are using one, into your gradebook there. So it's really just an average score of all the bulbs in that playlist. Can playlists be edited? The answer is definitely yes, but I would recommend not making too many changes while the playlist has been assigned and is kind of still open for grading. So that's a best practice, not to edit after assigning to learners, but technically, yes, you can edit them at any point. The 4th question is, can bulbs be edited once assigned to playlist? Same response there. Yes, but again, don't recommend editing them while they're still open for grading. And then we have some collaboration options for playlists. So I was going to show you those on the next slide here, but feel free to ask any follow-up questions or additional questions to these as well. And to your question, Lorraine, yes, exactly. Just like a bulb, you can link that playlist to your assignment in Canvas or material in Schoology, or however you normally assign that bulb. Playlist can be assigned in the similar way. In terms of collaboration, you can assign access to edit a playlist just like a bulb. You can assign access to just view or assign it, and allow those folks to monitor the data as well. You can copy and duplicate playlists as well to kind of scale that impact there. And one thing I should also mention in terms of scaling is that the pre-made bulbs library is something that you may be familiar with underneath this playlist option on the menu. But what you might not have known is that you can also find playlists underneath the pre-made bulbs library. So if you're inside the pre-made bulbs library, you can also find playlists by going to either your institution's kind of bucket here or the all PlayPosit bucket. And under the search tool, you have the first drop down here for bulbs or playlists. You won't see that drop down if you don't have playlists in your license yet, but it should be there if you do. And you can search by keyword or creator last name. So someone also might have already created a playlist on a topic you're curious about, and you can find that. And then from there, you can click the 3 dots or that icon on the left, and you can preview that playlist or even just copy it over to your account. So just know that the pre-made bulbs library has playlists as well. So those are some ways we can collaborate on the playlists. I mentioned that pre-made bulbs library piece, a great way to leverage the content that's already there that exists. I do have a couple more resources to share, but keep those questions coming in case you have any more ideas or thoughts as we are working to close out here in the next few minutes. Customer resources. This is our one-stop shop for all resources in the PlayPosit world. It's got also our new branding here, so it looks really nice. So a couple things to note. First of all, where do you access this? Well, if you're inside of PlayPosit, it's the last item on the menu. So if you're ever kind of like, hey, I need some support on something, I'm not sure where to go, that is the place to go first. Customer resources, last option on the menu. And from here, you'll see a couple things that are really important. The PlayPosit Academy, that has essentially playlists on each of our LMS workflows, or if you have no LMS, and some additional advanced feature resources here. There's actually one on playlists on the bottom right as well. So that's the PlayPosit Academy for some of the tutorials on learning our tool. The webinars, like the one you're watching right now, you can register right here or view previous recordings right here as well. So those are great, and I would encourage you to check out some of our previous and upcoming webinars. The use case library has some examples similar to the ones that we showed earlier. This is really important. The help articles page, our knowledge base is searchable and has tons of articles, really clear, easy to understand resources on the functionalities of PlayPosit. And it's also searchable, so that's really nice. And then we have live office hours, which are usually hosted by my colleague Jason, who's in the chat supporting right now. Those are twice a week. The information is right here with this link. And we also have some First Friday features on some of our newest features and parts of the tool that we want to highlight on Fridays. So that is the customer resources page. It is definitely the one-stop shop for things that you need to know about PlayPosit. So feel free to access that from the last menu option. And if you're low on time, but you still want a quick tutorial on some feature, you can access that through YouTube. Someone just asked about, Isaac, you just asked about the recording of the session. So this is actually a good chance for me to show you our PlayPosit YouTube page, which is also where you can access some of the recordings. But I will mention the webinars page here has the upcoming and previous sessions. If you register for those, even if they've already passed, you'll get access to the recording. Or you can go to the YouTube page by just searching for PlayPosit on YouTube. And from here, I'll just show this right here. Under the live section, you'll see all the webinars that are upcoming or in this case have been, or rather passed and been recorded. So some of these are from earlier this month or last month as well. All right, so that's where the recordings are, either in the PlayPosit YouTube under live or under the webinars page, which was inside of our customer resources page, which was the last option on the menu of the PlayPosit space. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know if you have any further questions on the recordings. And I do appreciate the compliment on this being a helpful session. I mentioned office hours. I'll say it one more time. Twice a week, these are the times. The information's on that customer resources page. You want that one-on-one support, this is the best way to get it quickly and easily on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that is all we've got for today. I will stay on, and Jason will stick around in the chat for a couple more minutes if there's any more questions or ideas or thoughts. But while we are waiting for those and before anyone else leaves, I just want to say thank you for the time today. Thanks for your interest, your curiosity, and your engagement with PlayPosit and with the playlist tool. I'm excited that you all are going to give it a shot, or maybe you already have at this point. And thanks so much for your time and energy today. So I'm going to go on mute and stick around for any additional questions. But if you are all set, then go ahead and sign out and have a great rest of your week and weekend. All right. Thanks so much for joining. Bernice, that's a good question. So if I'm understanding your question, you just want to know if the way that it looks for students is different um, in their view. So the playlist looks like what we talked about earlier. So if I'm in this edit mode as a teacher or instructor, I can then click this toggle in the top right to go into preview mode. And this is what the learner will see. And I think you can do a couple things here that are important to mention. You can click the 3 lines on the top and kind of hide the menu and just see the full screen of whatever resource you're on. You can click through each module. If it's locked progression, which you can set, then they have to go one at a time in order. And then they can print certificates at the end if you've enabled that as well. But it looks like this when they're inside of a bulb. So if I click play here, that will look, just mute that for a second. That will look exactly like a normal PlayPosit bulb, just inside of this playlist. But otherwise, exactly the same functionality here that they'll have access to. If that doesn't answer your question, or if you have more questions on that, Bernice, just type them again in the chat, please. But that's my answer based on your current question. All right, awesome. And if you do have more questions, I will just say, I think Jason put this in the chat, but success@playposit.org. Jason, double check me on that. But that is the email for any support that you might need. And we can help you out there if there's additional questions that come up. All right, we are going to close out at this time. It is almost the top of the hour, but thanks again for the time. If you're joining us and watching the recording, thanks for checking this out. And feel free to watch other sessions as well. But hope you have a great rest of the day and weekend, and take care.